Hey guys, John here with RealTruck.com. Today I want to show you how to install the K&N 63 series air charger high performance air intakes onto this 2014 Chevy Silverado. First thing we got to do to get this thing onto our truck is to get this out of the box. So we're going to go ahead and open it up and get everything out of the box and laid out where it needs to go. So that way we can see exactly what we've got here. It's always a good idea to check, make sure that everything's supposed to be with the kit, comes with the kit, before you get started on your project. So we're going to get that out of there. Eventually we're going to get that out of there. All right, cool. Here we go. We've got everything laid out here. We can see that we've got all the parts we need to get this on the truck. As you can see, it comes with everything you need. It comes with your plate for your air intake sensor and also the gasket for that. Also, you have the adapters and hoses that will replace your PCV valve on your truck. Also, you have the couplers that we need to get this thing hooked up, your new air tube, air box, the coupler to attach the good part to the air box, and also you have your clamps to attach your couplers and your trim that goes around this air box so that way you don't have sharp edges and such on the sides that you got to worry about. These are vehicle specific, which means that this tube is going to fit this truck. So you don't have to worry if you ordered one for this truck, you're not going to get a bunch of generic parts in your kit that you have to throw half of them away because they don't work on yours. So you're not paying for anything extra that you don't need. Also, something that you are paying for that you do need is increased horsepower. And that's what you're going to get out of this kit, some increased horsepower. Plus, one of the really cool things is because this replaces the OEM filter and air box, and this only has to be serviced every 100,000 miles by simply taking it out, wash it, dry it, put it back in the truck. Let's start getting this onto the truck. We're ready to start putting our K&N 63 series into our truck, but the first thing we want to do is go through and unplug all of our sensors and get those out of the way. And on this one, what we want to do first is go ahead and take our mass airflow sensor loose. And in order to do that, you can see on here there's a red clip. That's a safety clip to hold that so it doesn't come off. What we want to do is just pull that up. And sometimes you can get them with your fingers. It's easier just to use a pair of pliers to slide that up. And then just push in on it and disconnect it, lay it off to the side out of the way. Now, what we're going to do with this one is we're going to go ahead and take this mass airflow sensor out of this tube while it's in the truck, just simply because it holds, this is all being held in right now, so it's a little easier to get this out without having to struggle with it over on the bench. Now you want to be careful with this sensor that you don't break this, because as you can see here, there is a little bit of metal here, but the sensor is on the back side of it, and the majority of this sensor is plastic. So if you go jerking on it real hard or something, trying to wedge it up out of there, you can break this off, and these things are kind of pricey. So you want to make sure you don't break this. Also, you want to hang on to this because this is what we're going to put back into our new air intake tube. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the cover for our air filter. All right, guys, there's also a little retainer clip down here on the air box cover that holds our wire for our mass airflow sensor in place. What we do is we got to get that off of there. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this bottom of our air box up out of here, and that just pops out. Just got to pull up on it. It's just these pins right here pop down inside there. The next thing we're going to do is take this airbox base out of here. Now hang on to these screws that we're taking out of here, because we'll need these to put our new K&N system in. Next thing we're going to do, guys, is remove the crankcase vent tubes, and that's done by simply push down on this slider here and just pull back on it, and there it goes. Just push those out of the way. And then the next thing we're going to do is disconnect our air plenum So once we have the plenum off, out of the way, the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove our tubes. Same way as we took them off of the plenum, the air plenum, just push in, pull up, and those come off, and we can get those out of our way. Now, something to keep in mind as you're doing this is do not throw any of this stuff away, because you want to hang on to this in case you ever had a problem that you needed to put all this back on for diagnostic purposes of your engine or anything of that nature. You know, hang on to this. Maybe you want to sell the truck, whatever. You want to take your K&N filter and stuff off. You can do that, and as you can see, it's not that tough to put all this stuff back on this truck. We've got all that old OE stuff out of the truck, so we're ready to start putting together our new K&N 63 series to get it in the truck. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take this rubber trim and we're going to put that around our air box shield, so that way, like I said before, it keeps these rough edges or sharp edges off so that we don't like cut ourselves when we're messing with our filter or whatever. This is really simple to put on. It's got a slotted groove in the rubber trim itself. It just pushes down on here and you just kind of follow it around. All right, guys, there you have it. That's how you get that on there. So we're gonna move on to the next step of putting this all together. The next thing we're gonna do is put our K&N airbox shield down in here. And when we get it in here, in order to know that you have it in the right place, you have to make sure that the hole and the plate is actually facing into the engine bay. If it's facing into the engine bay, then you know you have it the right direction. And then what you're going to do is use the 3 screws that we took out of our airbox plate that held our airbox in. We're going to use these 3 screws in this new shield to hold it down, and they will screw into the same place that our airbox plate did. Okay, once that's all in place, then we can move on to the next part. Once our heat shield's in place, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to attach our coupler to our air filter, and that's just a simple process. Slide this down on there. As you guys can see, there's a little bit of a ridge on here, and that's where the air filter will actually stop unless you push it through it, which you can do, so don't do that. Just push it on there. And then once it's on there, then we'll just take our hose clamp and we're going to attach our filter to the coupler. Once we have our filter assembly and our coupler together, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this into our heat shield area. And the easiest way to do that is to put it in filter down, and then we'll lift it back up into place. And then once we have it up in place, then we will attach the screws. Now there's 2 different types of screws that come with this kit for this truck. There's 4 larger hex head screws, and then there's 2 smaller ones. What we want to use is 2 of the larger ones with the 2 flat washers, and then we're just going to attach this to our heat shield and through the heat shield and into the coupler with those screws. Okay, once we have those screws started, then we can go ahead and tighten those down into place. Okay, that's all in place, ready to go. On to the next part. There's a couple different couplers that come with this kit, depending on whether this truck has the 5.3 or the 6.0. This particular one has the 5.3, so we're going to use coupler with the part number 08497 and 1 smaller clamp and then 1 larger clamp for this other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our smaller clamp and we're just going to put it over this end for now, because the smaller end of this goes over our throttle body. We're going to put that on in place. Now once that's in place, we're going to go ahead and tighten that up. Snug that down with our wrench there, and then we'll tighten it down the rest of the way with our screwdriver. Then we'll take our larger clamp. We're going to go ahead and place it on here and just let it fall to the back for now. This end, what we're going to take is our adapter that's part number 08418, and we're going to attach it to our coupler for the air filter. Gonna snug it just a little bit here. We've got everything set up over there, got our adapters on, we're ready to start putting our air intake tube together, but we gotta remember there's some important pieces that have to go on here. Number one being this mass airflow sensor. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the rubber, it's kind of a foam rubber gasket, and peel this white backing off of it. And then we're going to attach it to our mounting plate. Now when we attach this, we'll make sure that we have the notches where the screws will be going through, and that both our slot here lines up with the slot and the plate itself, so that a way we can get our sensor in where it's supposed to go. Next thing we're going to do with this then is we're going to mount this onto our tube. Now another thing to keep in mind is to make sure that when you put this back in, you got to put this all together, that you have this set up where you can see on this one there's a slot in the side. That's where the air goes into this sensor. Make sure that that slot or hole that's in the side of here is facing towards the air filter end of this tube. So in this case, it would go in this way. So we'll make sure that when we put this mounting plate on, that we install it in this direction so that we can put our sensor in here where it goes. Like, once we've got our mounting plate attached to our air tube, then we can go ahead and install our mass airflow sensor, remembering that the opening goes towards the air filter. We'll put that down in here. We'll take the small of the two screws that are left that came with the kit. We're going to use those to attach the sensor to our plate. Okay, there we go. We've got that part done. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install the hose adapters for our PCV valves into the air tube. Once again, guys, plastic threads, metal threaded area. If you crank these things down, you will strip those threads, so do not crank them down, just snug them down. Okay, there we go. We've got our air tube all set up, ready to go onto the truck. We've got our air tube all set up, so the next step of the process is to put this onto the truck. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our clamp that goes on this end. We're just going to go ahead and slide it up on here so that way it's on there. We don't have to fight with it trying to get to it later. And then we'll take this and we're going to slide it up underneath here and attach it into that coupler. Then we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to push it down in there. Remember, you want to push it real good so that way it's in there nice and solid. And then we're going to take our tool here and we're just going to zip this clamp down real quick so that it stays in place while we tighten it up. We'll take our screwdriver, we'll tighten this up the rest of the way. It's important that we get these tight because we don't want any air bypassing our filter or coming around this tube, because if it comes around this tube, it bypasses our mass airflow sensor, which will cause the computer not to read the proper amount of air that's coming in here to deliver the proper amount of fuel to that ratio. So make sure that you have these clamps tight. Once we've got that one on, the next thing we're going to do is attach our hoses onto our PCV valves. Simply going to slide that down on there. And then up and over the top of that one. All right, once those are on, We're going to take our wire for our mass airflow sensor and we're going to plug that back in. Okay guys, there you have it. That's how simple and easy it is to install this K&N 63 series onto this Chevy Silverado. Couple things before we go. One, this comes with the K&N kit. You want to keep this in your vehicle, put it in your glove box, whatever. It's got the 1-800 number on so that if you have any problems with taking this in to get serviced, if somebody tries to tell you that this is going to void your warranty or whatever, it will not. There's a number in here, on here that they can call, and K&N will talk to them directly to inform them of that. Also, you have your K&N badge that you can place right up here underneath your Chevy logo or wherever else you want to put it. So there you have it. Only one thing left to do is start this truck up, Tyler, and let's take a listen to this. Okay guys, you heard it there. Sounds really cool. You can hear a lot of air going in there. And you know what cold air relates to on an engine? Horsepower. So until next time, remember, happy motoring. There's my nose. You licking my nose? You licking my nose, sausages? Yeah, it's the black hole of the automotive industry.